Hello ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video I have a brand new ranking for you all, as I am going to be ranking all 4 of the John Wick movies. So John Wick Chapter 4 has officially released in theaters, and as of the recording of this particular video, it is tracking for the biggest opening weekend of the franchise. And in my humble opinion, it deserves all of the praise and all of your money, so please go see it in theaters. Support this movie because it is a banger, folks. But now the real question is, where does it rank among its 3 predecessors in what I would now consider to be arguably the most consistent action movie franchise of all time, if not just outright the best action movie franchise of all time? Before I hop into the actual ranking itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my ranking videos. There is already well over 100 videos currently on that playlist for you to enjoy, so if rankings are your thing, then be sure to check that out, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. Number 4. John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Once again, I'm going to reiterate that I feel this is likely the most consistent and arguably best action movie franchise out there. I do not dislike or even like any of these 4 movies. I love every one of them. And it is no different here with Chapter 3 Parabellum. Really, all you're going to hear from me in this video is praise for all 4 of these movies and a few little nitpicks that help me sort of order this ranking. I love the opening for this one, like killing a former basketball player with a book in a library. I love the fight in the antique shop. That is brutal and at times disgusting. I love John Wick on a horse versus motorcycles. I love the expansion once again of this world because each one of these movies puts in the necessary work to naturally grow this world, and this one's no different. We learn a bit more about the high table and how that hierarchy works. Some more rules are put in place. We have John Wick severing his finger and leaving his ring behind. We get to meet Halle Berry's character, and her along with her 2 dogs add even more to this kick-ass action than I could have hoped for. That fight scene in the desert, the dogs doing their work, it is freaking spectacular. I thought Asia Kate Dillon was fine as the adjudicator. I liked her mannerisms and the way that she just took command of the screen every time she was present, but I didn't think her character was necessarily the most engaging. However, Mark Dacascos as Zero, who was just a big fanboy of John Wick, and I loved that, but he was also a total badass, along with his 2 main henchmen being 2 gentlemen from the superb Raid movies, and I just loved his whole band of assassins and the way that they took care of business. We also get to explore more of John's backstory here, and it's set up for the ballerina spin-off, which is coming soon and will star Ana de Armas. My only minor gripes are that I feel some of the fight scenes can be a bit repetitive, where we see a lot of the same moves repeated over and over again, and I think it went a bit too far with some of its elements. I feel they just escalated that a bit too far there. Like, I sort of buy into the bulletproof suits enough, but full, completely impenetrable body armor is a step, maybe a touch too far. And then also John Wick getting shot and falling off this massive building and hitting everything on the way down and still surviving, I think is just getting a bit too much into the realm of like Fast and the Furious there, where we just have this unkillable hero. I think he just has a bit too much plot armor in that regard. And some of the pacing in the back half of the movie can be a little choppy, but again, those are very minor nitpicks. I cannot stress that enough because I really do love this one as much as I love the other 3. Number 3. John Wick. This movie is the definition of simple but effective. Its trailers did nothing for me. It really did nothing for anyone because this movie is arguably one of the greatest sleeper hits of all time. It just absolutely came out of nowhere and blew everyone's minds. And to this day, one of my biggest regrets is not going to see this original movie in theaters. I waited till it was available on home video and I just had very little expectations. I know that the word of mouth was super positive. I popped it into my Blu-ray player and my mind was simply blown, and I immediately fell in love with Keanu as this character and even more so with this world of assassins. Speaking of which, I love the way this story is told, and in particular I love the way that the world and the other characters tell us through their actions and very minimal dialogue who John Wick is, rather than massive exposition dumps or flashbacks and backstory stuff. I mean, when our main bad guy first gets on the phone and he's told that his son killed John Wick's dog and stole his car, all that can come out of him is the word, "Oh." And that tells you all you need to know about this man that we've come to know and love as the Baba Yaga. I'd argue that this first movie has this series' best villain with the late, great Michael Nyqvist. The supporting cast too is excellent, like Ian McShane, Lance Reddick, Willem Dafoe, Alfie Allen, along with Adrian Palicki and John Leguizamo. The movie is also miraculously well-paced with non-stop action that's well shot and well choreographed. This movie changed the genre. It fully changed the game. And now action movies have constantly tried to replicate this formula ever since this first movie. It is the little sleeper hit that could. And the only reason it's down in this third place spot is because of what I said at the very beginning, that it is simple but effective, but still simple, and it has very limited world building, and I am a pretty big world building guy. It does plant the little necessary seeds, but I don't think that they blossomed until the sequels really took over and showed us everything. Number 2. John Wick, Chapter 4. I think it's best just to start with my negatives on this one because they are very few and far between, and aside from that, I will simply just be raving about this movie. The only negatives that I have are that, firstly, yes, you do feel the runtime. In my humble opinion, there are some pacing issues here and there. Some of the fight scenes can actually drag on a touch too long than I think they needed to. I was a little worried about that going into this movie. It's nearly 3 hours, folks, but you don't always feel that. Some movies are extremely well paced despite massive runtimes, and I think for the most part, and I'm talking like 90% of this movie, it is pretty damn well paced. But there are a few things here and there where it just kind of kept going to the point that it almost got a little bit comical, and I was like, yeah, they probably could have nudged this one down by like 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so, and it would have came out with the same end result. The two other negatives that I had are, firstly, it seems like civilians just don't give a shit about anything that's going on around them. We have this stunning, epic, like electro dance music rave going on around our characters, and no one seems to care until the tail end that people around them are just being brutally murdered with axes and shot in the head, and all this chaos is erupting around them, and they're still just like dancing around as if nothing was going on around them at all. So I think that the civilians are basically just brainless NPCs, and they pay no attention to their surroundings. Again, very nitpicky, and the only other issue that I had with this movie was that I feel it does, once again, like the tail end of John Wick Chapter 3, has a little bit of that Fast and Furious syndrome, like I alluded to at the end of the third movie, John getting shot like 5 times and sent crashing off the top of a building, coming out completely unscathed. I thought that was a bit much, and things on that level happen like 4 times in this movie, and not just to John Wick, but to plenty of characters that are just surviving ridiculous shit. So it's a little nitpicky, yeah, of course, because it's all in the name of entertainment. As for the positives, obviously and unsurprisingly, the action scenes are incredible. They constantly find new, creative, and innovative ways to always keep the action sequences exciting, refreshing, and engaging the whole way through, and I love how they problem solve in this movie, arguably better than any of the other 3. I mean, we knew early on we have bulletproof suits. They know how to deal with that. At the end of the third movie, they introduced full body armor that is completely bulletproof. Well, they find ways to work around that. Our characters have to be smart and figure things out as they go. Special shout out to the supporting cast once again. I think that Bill Skarsgård as our main villain for this one absolutely gave Michael Nyqvist a run for his money as the best villain, but the supporting cast of both good and bad guys, and the ones that also blur the line in the middle, like Hiroyuki Sanada, Shamir Anderson, Rina Sawayama, Natalia Tena, Scott Adkins, Marcos Aurora, Clancy Brown, once again the returning Ian McShane, Lawrence Fishburne, and Lance Reddick, RIP to that man. It absolutely broke my heart to hear of his passing. And potentially the biggest new addition and standout of this movie is Donnie Yen, because my god, this man has still got it. Everything else, from the costume design to the set design to the sound design, the sound mixing, the cinematography, the coloring, the soundtrack, all of it is top notch, top tier, best in the biz. I loved it all. The world building once again is absolutely phenomenal, as this world of assassins just continues to grow and expand, once again introducing a plethora of new characters, new locations, and new rules. It never feels forced, it never feels shoehorned in there, it's all offered to us in a natural way, and it all flows magnificently. Number 1, John Wick Chapter 2. This movie walks the finest of lines, in my humble opinion, between all of the best things from each of these movies. I think it is pretty much the exact same as the first John Wick, but just bigger and better. Bigger action scenes, better world building, more characters, more to see, more to do. I think it takes the bigger and better idea of sequels and implements it properly. It never goes too far into that like Fast and Furious realm that I think 3 and 4 did a little bit, but it was never too small that it felt simple but effective like the original. I think that this one did everything right. My only gripe is that I found the main villain, played by Ricardo Scamarcio, which I'm probably pronouncing improperly, as the character Santino D'Antonio. He was just fine. He was alright, he wasn't bad, but he was just pretty generic, pretty run-of-the-mill. I actually found the characters played by Ruby Rose and Common to be the far more interesting of the villains. And that's just what it comes down to. I think from start to finish, this movie is marvelously paced. It spaces out the action sequences just enough. They never run on too long. There's an appropriate amount of character building, world building, backstory. It's just got all the right stuff, and it never goes too far with its action, nor does it feel like a step back in any way, shape, or form from the first one. So although this may be a controversial pick looking around at many other people's rankings, I still stand by the fact that I feel that this should be seen as one of the peaks of the action genre today. This should be up there with the gold standard of movies like Mad Max Fury Road, Mission Impossible Fallout, and a few very, very select others. It may not be your pick, but Chapter 2 is my pick for the best of John Wick. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my ranking. While you're at it, don't forget to let me know how you would have ranked all 4 of the John Wick movies. If you're a movie lover whatsoever, then my channel is the place to be for you. Be it rankings like this one, top 10 videos, tier videos, versus videos, I have it all and so much more, with well over 700 videos currently on the channel for you to enjoy. So if you enjoyed this particular video, then be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if any of that sounds like it's right for you and you want to see more from me, then smash that subscribe button right now. While you're at it, don't forget to ring that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you. And while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.